Unless you have the right hardware, there's a few problems you're going to run into. If you have outdated gear, you're going to experience stuttering or lower and inconsistent frame rates. Grand Theft Auto 6 uses a lot of high-resolution textures, and the open-world nature of GTA 6 means that it's going to load textures for things in the distance that you may not see yet. So you may need as much RAM on your video card as you can get. You're going to need a fast NVMe SSD to load textures into the video card quickly. If you have 16 gigabytes of VRAM, this might be enough if you have a dedicated GPU. If you're not using a dedicated GPU, then your system RAM will be shared with VRAM, particularly on AMD. Integrated graphics are probably not going to cut it, but if you want to try, then allocate as much RAM to the APU as possible. If you have 13 gigabytes, then assign 16 to graphics. If you have low VRAM, 8 gigabytes or less, then textures have to be shuffled in and out, and there will be stuttering even if you have an NVMe. Anything less than 8 gigabytes probably won't work. For regular RAM, the sweet spot is about 32 gigabytes, particularly if you run Windows. Linux will probably be okay with 16, as Windows runs many unnecessary services, and tweaking these risks system stability, but that's a topic for another article. If you can afford it and are looking to upgrade anyway, go ahead and get 64 gigabytes of RAM. If you have a spinning metal hard drive, expect load times to be measured in minutes, not seconds. Remember how long it takes for Red Dead Redemption levels to load? A SATA SSD will be faster than a hard drive, but not nearly as fast as an NVMe. Think 500 megabytes per second versus 3 to 7 gigabytes per second from a true NVMe. Seek time is the killer when it comes to loading textures, and the more small files there are, the worse this is. Here are the minimum and recommended specifications for GTA 6. For a CPU, an Intel Core i7-8700 or an AMD Ryzen 5 3600 or 5600X. The recommended requirements are an Intel Core i7 12700K or an AMD Ryzen 7 5800X. The game's expected to be CPU intensive, so a good CPU may be more important if you have a GPU from the last couple of years. Tell us what hardware you're running when you make a comment below. What you need depends on what performance level you're targeting, and if you primarily will be playing online or using the single player experience. Are you going to be using an ultra-wide monitor? If so, then add a little bit more to your requirements. How many frames are acceptable? What can you expect? Some people are fine with 60, some people benefit from 90, and some people really want the maximum their monitor can handle, so they're looking for 240 frames a second. In general, the higher the resolution, the lower the frame rate you can expect. This is where DLSS and other frame generation technologies come in, but in general, the more fake frames you generate, the more lag that's introduced. For online play, extra lag will not be tolerable. Keep frame generation for the single player experience. If you're targeting 4K 60 FPS, then you're going to need a video card with 16 gigabytes of VRAM or more. 1440p, 12 gigabytes of VRAM is probably okay. 1080p, you're looking at 8 gigabytes. With an 8 gigabyte card, the VRAM is probably going to struggle with high resolution textures, leading to some performance drops and stuttering. The game will heavily utilize fast storage, so a high-speed NVMe SSD is essential along with adequate VRAM to prevent swapping in and out of textures to video card memory. Tips for laptops and handhelds. Will the Steam Deck and ROG Ally run it? What if you mainly game on a handheld like the Steam Deck or ROG Ally? Right now, Rockstar hasn't announced if GTA 6 will run on a Steam Deck. However, Valve is really good at getting AAA games to run on the Steam Deck via the Steam Deck Verified plan. And there are several games that you wouldn't think that would run great on the Steam Deck, but do because they're well optimized. Red Dead Redemption 2, Resident Evil Requiem. There's a few other modern games that you don't think would work well on a low-powered system, but they work fine. I've been surprised what a good experience can be had on a Steam Deck. Other handhelds have higher resolution, so they need more horsepower than a Steam Deck to get the same frame rate. A lot of people buy a faster handheld and can't really see the extra pixels on the tiny screen, and they have to do a lot more tweaking to get good frame rates. Handhelds generally are using an APU, so the graphics and the CPU are on one die. So there's a trade-off between how much RAM is allocated for the system and how much is allocated for graphics. For a 16GB handheld like the Steam Deck, expect an 8-to-8 split or possibly even a 12-to-6 split. If it runs at all, it will be at low settings with no post-processing. The ROG Ally X has 24GB of RAM, and so that might be a little bit better, but we'll see how that pans out. This guide should be helpful for just about anyone who wants to play GTA 6 on a PC or a handheld. I have other videos planned about getting the most performance out of your computer, so click that subscribe button so you don't miss out. What upgrades can you make? For your CPU, check what upgrades you can make with the same CPU socket. What's the most your socket can take? If you need a motherboard that takes an AM5 slot, and you are currently on AM4, then you're also looking at a motherboard replacement. A motherboard is probably going to be the cheapest part of your setup if you have to overhaul your entire system. For the GPU, if you have 8GB of VRAM or less, then you probably do need to upgrade. Shoot for 16GB, but a 12GB card might be okay. An older NVIDIA GPU like the 3090 might be okay, but shoot for 16GB of VRAM. The AMD 7900 XTX is half the price of NVIDIA and even comes with 24GB of RAM, which can also help if you do creative work. If you don't have an NVIDIA card, you can use lossless scaling for frame generation. FSR4 is good for AMD, but any card that uses FSR3 will look better and have better performance if using lossless scaling. Generally, a 2x frame rate is good, but at 3x you'll get noticeable temporal artifacting and some lag. Your system has to generate enough real frames for this to work. If your hardware can consistently do 30 frames per second, then expect a solid 60 with lossless frame generation. For RAM, if you have single channel RAM, you can upgrade for half the cost and get dual channel. For a desktop, if you have free memory slots, then just add new sticks rather than replacing. Try to match the timings. 4 4GB sticks is just as good as 2 8GB sticks, and it'll be cheaper to upgrade. If you have 2 4s, it's not recommended to do an additional 2 16. Try to keep all 4 sticks of your RAM the same size. Laptops generally have 2 RAM slots, and sometimes manufacturers only populate 1 when they sell it to you. If that's the case, then you can double your RAM at half the cost. Otherwise, you have to replace both sticks of RAM at the same time. If you have 2 4GB for an 8GB RAM total, then you need to buy 2 8GB sticks. If your laptop's currently populated with 2 4GB sticks for 8GB of RAM total and you need to get to 16, then you're going to have to replace those and buy 2 8GB sticks for 16GB total. Some laptops don't even have upgradable RAM at all, which means you need a whole new system. It's possible you can get an external GPU and dock. Maybe you have an old GPU lying around, or a friend upgraded and has a 2070 lying around. Snag it and get a dock. A dock might be a couple $100, and if your laptop will support it, but I'm guessing if you have some of this older technologies, then it's probably not worth doing a external GPU. You can upgrade the memory with a laptop, especially if you have single channel RAM. DDR4 is much cheaper than DDR5 right now, especially for laptops. You can upgrade a spinning hard drive with a SATA SSD. If you have an unused NVMe slot, now would be the time to upgrade. So if you can't upgrade, you might need to look into buying a whole new system. Maybe your desktop is just a heater in the summer and you want to go with a gaming laptop. If you're going to get a gaming laptop, look for one with a discrete video card. These ones with APUs and integrated graphics are not going to work. If it doesn't explicitly list an NVIDIA graphics card or an Radeon card, then it's integrated graphics. Probably going to be expensive, so if the price seems too good to be true, it probably is, and it's probably using an APU. I've already done some research for some price ranges to look for, and so here's the distilled down nitty-gritty. A gaming laptop with a discrete video card is going to cost anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500. The lower minimum spec, you're looking at around $1,100 to $1,900, and this is probably going to be around 16 gigabytes of RAM with an i7-13650HX. If you're looking for a desktop, you can buy one off the shelf, or you can pick up the parts and save yourself a little bit of money. For a desktop, you're looking at around $1,500 to $2,000. For a handheld, that's around $800 to $1,200. The ROG Ally might be able to do it with 24 gigabytes of RAM, and there's no guarantee that the Steam Deck will work, but I've had good success with lossless scaling and other Decky plugins. Another option is just buying a console. They're $650. The Xbox Series X is $650, the PlayStation 5 is also $650, and it will run GTA 6. The PC version's release date hasn't been announced yet, so the cheapest and fastest way to play GTA 6 is to get a console. How much things will cost will depend on if you need to upgrade one or two things, or if you need a system overhaul. If you have a desktop, then you can do simple upgrades. If you have a laptop, then there's going to be limitations on what you can upgrade. For RAM, upgrade to 32. Going beyond that's up to you. If you have a laptop running a single stick of RAM, then you might be able to just buy one stick of RAM and enjoy dual channel memory, in addition to your upgrade being cheaper. If you already have 8 gigabytes of RAM and need to get to 16, then you just need to buy one 8 gigabyte stick of RAM. For a video card, we recommend getting one with 16 gigabytes of RAM. 12 might be okay, and if you have 8 gigabytes of RAM, then you probably need to upgrade. The ATI 9700 XTX is cheaper than a lot of other NVIDIA cards and has 24 gigabytes of RAM. For storage, you're going to need an NVMe drive. GTA 6 is going to use 150 gigabytes of space. For the CPU, get an X3D processor if you're going to be getting a new processor anyway. If you already have AMD, it's probably not worth replacing it with a 3D model unless the base processor would be a significant upgrade to justify the price anyway. Here's some rough prices for some of the components. An i7-8700 is about $200. A Ryzen 5 5600 is about $148. For video cards, that's where things start getting expensive. It can be anywhere from $350 all the way up to $4,000. You can get a nVidia 5060 for about $350, and the flagship 5090 is about $4,400. You can go with a 3090 at $1,500, a 4060 for about $500, a 4070 about $500, that's probably going to be the sweet spot. A 4080 is too much right now, it's $1,500, and a 4090 is just outright at $3,700. 32 gigabytes of VRAM is elite. 16 gigabytes is what most people have, and there is a sweet spot with 24 gigabytes of VRAM. For Intel, LGA 1851 is the current socket for Core Ultra processors, the 245K and 285K. You're looking at an 800 series motherboard, a Z890. If you already have one of these, then you probably don't need to upgrade. If you have a 12th or 14th gen Intel, you're on LGA 1700 using a 600 and 700 series motherboard. The chipset supported DDR4 and DDR5, so you need to look at which one the motherboard uses and to see which RAM you need to upgrade to. If you have a 10th or 11th gen Intel, then you're on LGA 1200 and you're using DDR4. If you have low RAM on one of these, you might be able to get cheaper RAM and upgrade, but get a faster video card. That's probably going to be your best bet. If you're looking at upgrading your CPU, then you might need an entirely new system, as it's probably not cost effective to just plop in a new CPU, as the newer ones have different architecture and RAM requirements. You might have better luck if you already own AMD, as many Ryzen 5, 7, and 9 can use AM5 sockets. If you have a 12th gen Intel with DDR4, then you can't use DDR5 RAM. You're going to need a whole new processor, motherboard, and DDR5 RAM. For most people, the most noticeable performance improvement will be a video card upgrade in RAM. If you have 8 gigabytes of RAM, you definitely need to upgrade to 16. If you have 16, you can stay on it, but 32 gigabytes if you can afford it. For storage, if you have a SATA SSD, you should be okay, but load times will be a little slower and you may get some stuttering, and NVMe will definitely help. If you already have an NVMe and other storage, definitely install the game on the NVMe. I'll do a video comparing the load times for different storage devices, so if you haven't already, subscribe so that you don't miss out on that. So how much will this cost? If you have an older GPU with weaker DLSS and FrameGen support, then try lossless frame generation. It only costs $5 and upscales with good performance and works on any video card. Note that there might be too much lag for twitchy online multiplayer, but the single player experience will be a night and day improvement. Can you upgrade your laptop? If you have a single stick of RAM, perhaps you can just buy one stick and get a speed boost by using dual channel RAM, in addition to the upgrade being half the cost. If you do have 8GB of DDR4 RAM single channel, then just buy one 8GB stick. DDR4 is going to be cheaper than DDR5, and you might be able to find some at PC recycle shops. Do you need to upgrade your video card, RAM, or the entire motherboard and CPU? If you have a laptop, does it support USB 4 or an external GPU? If you have a spare NVMe slot, you might even be able to get an Optilink adapter, which uses an external graphics card. Some cheaper options, just use an Xbox or a PlayStation, if you already have one. There is a case to be made for consoles, that you don't have to upgrade to the latest gaming PC hardware. You can use GeForce Now or Xbox Cloud services. Then you can game from any laptop provided that your internet connection is good enough. As promised, here are some upgrades you can do for free. You can game on Linux. In general, gaming on Linux offers around a 10% performance increase than running on Windows. It varies from game to game, but in general, most games running on Linux are faster than running on Windows. Rockstar has good Linux support, and you generally get 10% more frames. nVidia is a little lacking on their driver support, and AMD is usually rocking out of the box. If you have to run on Windows, use a dedicated gaming machine. You can get the game for free. If you're on Xbox, a family member can set another Xbox in the household as their home console. So if they buy the game and set the console as their home console, then you can play any game on that console without having to pay for it. So that's one way that you can play Grand Theft Auto 6 for free when it drops for consoles. Steam has a family pass. Right now only one person can play at a time though, and publishers have been a little stingy about including new AAA titles in a family pass for a while, but here's hoping. It's possible that when you buy the game on Steam, that other people in your family will be able to play it for free without having to buy another license. If this guide was helpful for you, be sure to like and subscribe. I have more videos planned with Grand Theft Auto 6, and also have some tips and tricks on how to get the most performance out of your PCs, handhelds, and laptops. So be sure to stick around, and again, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate your support. Thank you very much.